welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into something that's been, well, quietly pervasive, I think. And I suspect it's subtly influenced how many of us experience things online. It's this curious world of fake depth. You know that feeling? You're scrolling, you see content that seems to hit deeply, it looks profound, maybe it talks about healing or consciousness.
Right, it has that certain aesthetic. Soft lighting, maybe a poetic phrase.
Exactly. It feels wise, sounds transformative, and then it just kind of evaporates, doesn't it? Leaves you a bit empty.
That's a great way to put it, that ephemeral feeling.
And it leaves us with a really critical question. It's one posed brilliantly in our source for this deep dive. The deceptive allure of fake depth from Think with Setaleur, essentially.
Yeah.
Have we been moved or merely marketed to?
Ooh, that's sharp.
Yeah. So this deep dive is all about uncovering why the performance of depth seems to become so much more profitable than, actual genuine awareness.
And that distinction is key, isn't it? Performance versus genuine awareness. The source really unpacks how this aesthetic of insight has become its own genre.
A genre.
It's designed to look wise, feel transformative, but it's often what the author calls fake depth. It's crafted to evoke emotion, perhaps, but without demanding real change.
Like it taps into something but doesn't ask you to really grapple with it.
Exactly. It highlights how, in today's content economy, that aesthetic often blurs with what we think of as authenticity. It looks the part, but is it the real thing?
Okay, so let's unpack this. We need to look at what this fake depth actually looks like. Maybe why it's so pervasive, so profitable even.
And the dangers too, right? What happens when this becomes the norm?
Absolutely. And crucially, what does real depth actually entail? How do we spot the difference? Okay, let's get into it.
That was good.
So, spotting it in the wild. The source mentions this aesthetic of insight. What does that actually look like day to day online?
Well, think about those bite-sized wisdom nuggets you see everywhere.
Oh yeah, the minimalistic quotes on a nice background.
Those, exactly. Or even what the piece calls trauma talk dressed up with ambient music. Or maybe the sort of faux spiritual reflections. It's all presented as insight. But there's a pattern.
A pattern of
leveraging emotional language, often very skillfully, but usually without the creator taking any real emotional risk themselves. It mimics introspection.
So it makes you feel like you're thinking deeply.
Precisely. But it rarely offers, say, concrete direction or a genuine challenge to your worldview. It might feel momentarily good, like a quick hit of comfort or healing.
But it doesn't push you. Doesn't ask you to confront anything difficult or actually change your behavior.
That's the core of it. It's like reading the map without ever taking the journey.
I caught myself doing this just last week. Shared something that looked really profound. Then I reread it later and thought, wait, this is just platitudes. Really pretty platitudes, but still.
It's easy to fall for. It's designed to be digestible, shareable.
And safe. Right. That seems crucial. It avoids the discomfort.
Absolutely. True awareness, real self-reflection often involves confronting pain, maybe challenging systems we're part of, even grappling with our own ego. Fake depth skips all that.
It flatters the ego instead, maybe. Makes you feel aware without the hard work.
Exactly. It skillfully avoids the messy bits, which leads to the next big question.
Why is it so profitable if it offers so little real substance?
Well, the analysis points to a few things. First, the barrier to entry for creating it is incredibly low, but the appeal is sky high.
Makes sense. Real transformation is hard, takes time, it's uncomfortable.
Right. But fake depth offers the feeling of growth, that instant hit of aha without any heavy lifting. It's perfectly suited for our scroll culture, our desire for instant gratification.
By getting the reward without the effort.
Oh.
Very appealing.
Very. And second, it's tailor-made for the algorithms.
The algorithms, of course.
They don't reward nuance or complexity, do they? They reward what's repeatable, what generates engagement fast. Clicks, shares, quick reactions.
So those deep-sounding phrases, the vague empowerment posts, the nice-looking videos, they just feed the machine perfectly.
Exactly. Truth, as the author puts it, is slow. Nuance is slow. Clicks are fast. It's a fundamental mismatch.
Wow. Yeah.
And there's a third reason, which is quite insightful. It sells identity.
Identity. How so?
Often, this isn't really about selling wisdom. It's about selling a version of you, a lifestyle, a feeling, a way to signal that you're aware or conscious or doing the work.
Without necessarily doing the deep, messy internal work.
Precisely. It becomes a brand, your personal brand. It taps into our desire to belong, to seem like we're part of the in-group that gets it.
And that's where the danger starts creeping in, isn't it? It's not just harmless fluff.
No, it can be genuinely harmful. It potentially replaces real, difficult conversations about society, about ourselves, about relationships with these decorative surface-level substitutes.
So you get the illusion of being conscious or enlightened.
Without any requirement for real shifts. Systemic shifts, personal shifts, relational shifts. It's a shortcut that ultimately leads nowhere truly transformative.
It feels like it could actually prevent real growth sometimes.
That's a real risk. We start believing that reading a post about boundaries is setting boundaries, or that reposting a quote about healing is healing.
Knowing the words but not doing the work.
Exactly. The source puts it bluntly. This isn't enlightenment, it's branding. It kind of co-opts our genuine human desire for meaning and just repackages it for easy consumption.
Okay, so if that's the fake stuff, what does real depth look like? How do we know it when we see it or feel it?
The source offers some good pointers. Real depth, first off, tends to question itself before it preaches to others. There's a humility there.
Okay, self-awareness first.
Yes. And it often disturbs rather than just comforts. It pushes you, challenges your assumptions. It asks for genuine engagement, not just passive scrolling.
So it requires something from you.
Definitely. And crucially, real depth connects ideas to action, to life lived, not just to an aesthetic or a feeling.
It's not just about looking or feeling a certain way.
No, it demands vulnerability, patience. It embraces complexity and contradiction, things that, ironically, algorithms often suppress because they aren't neat and tidy.
Right. They aren't easily packaged into that 15-second video with the ambient music.
You can't manufacture it. It's hard-won. It comes from actually grappling with reality, with difficulties, with nuances, not performing awareness for an audience.
It's probably messy. Might even contradict itself sometimes as you learn and grow.
Absolutely. And maybe the most critical point for you, listening. Real depth changes people.
Changes how they live, not just how they post online.
Exactly. How they interact with the world, with others, with themselves. It's a fundamental shift, not just a new filter.
So pulling this together, how did we get here? How did pretending to be aware become more profitable than actually being aware?
I think it boils down to a core truth the source highlights. Illusion is easier to monetize than introspection.
Wow. Say that again.
Illusion is easier to monetize than introspection. That seems to be the engine driving this whole phenomenon.
That really hits home. Okay, so we've taken this deep dive. We've tried to distinguish between content that just looks aware and content that might actually foster genuine transformation. We've peeled back some layers.
And it's worth remembering, the source suggests, that while illusion doesn't last, real depth, even though it's slower to grow, ultimately roots itself in reality.
It has staying power.
Yes. And this raises a big question for us culturally, doesn't it? What are the long-term effects if we keep shifting from valuing true awareness to valuing, well, the performance of it? What do we lose?
Yeah, what gets lost in that translation from substance to brand?
If we consistently mistake the appearance of wisdom for wisdom itself, where does that leave us?
Which brings it back to you listening right now. Navigating this huge sea of online content, what does this all mean for you? How can you start to discern maybe that true depth from its deceptive allure? And how might spotting that difference change what you look for? Or maybe even what you create yourself?
It's a powerful question to sit with.
Yeah. Perhaps understanding this distinction, really internalizing it, is a step towards becoming, as the source suggests, maybe more alive, more honest, and more whole. Something to think about.